Here's what you missed in the last 13 hours. You had 13 videos worth catching up on, covering everything from AI coding tools and hardware tests to cult language tactics and the future of AI safety. It's been a packed day with some heated takes and fascinating deep dives. The big story today was Theo absolutely tearing apart Anthropic's new Claude Code desktop app. He started off playful, showing how all these coding apps, Codium, T3 Code, Cursor, and Claude Code, look remarkably similar. But his mood quickly soured as he encountered bug after bug. The image pasting functionality is completely broken. Images get attached to wrong messages and don't display properly. The file opening system doesn't work. You can open files, but Claude can't actually see their contents. Basic UI elements behave inconsistently, with Command plus W doing different things depending on which window you're in. Theo was genuinely insulted by the lack of quality, frequently swearing and expressing disbelief at these basic functionality failures. He contrasted this with Codium's open-source approach and his own T3 Code project, which he's building with just 2 people but claims works far better. The really frustrating part for Theo is that despite Claude Code being inferior, it'll probably still become popular simply because it's integrated with the main Claude app. He ended the video clearly exasperated, saying he couldn't continue and cutting his outro short. His core message was passionate: don't accept slop from big companies when better open-source alternatives exist. Moving to hardware, Linus had quite the adventure with his $20,000 thermal testing chamber that he bought for just $1,300. The good news? He got it working with help from refrigeration specialists for a fraction of the quoted repair cost. The bad news? Installing it permanently would cost over $250,000 due to infrastructure requirements. Linus was genuinely enthusiastic throughout the video, clearly enjoying the technical aspects and getting excited about the extreme cold demonstrations. The chamber can reach -73 degrees Celsius, and watching Linus test it at progressively colder temperatures was both amusing and impressive. At -40 degrees, his nose hairs froze and his mustache iced over instantly. The real issue isn't the chamber itself, but the heat dissipation requirements. For every unit of cooling energy, equivalent heat must be dissipated outside, potentially 200,000 BTU per hour. This would require major rooftop reinforcement and industrial-scale cooling equipment. So despite having this incredible piece of equipment working perfectly, Linus is selling it rather than deal with the massive infrastructure costs. It's a perfect example of how sometimes the tool works great, but the supporting systems make it impractical. Speaking of infrastructure bottlenecks, Nate B. Jones covered something fascinating from Google's chief scientist Jeff Dean. Dean made the counterintuitive claim that even infinitely fast AI would only yield 2-3x productivity gains because AI agents are bottlenecked by human-designed tools and interfaces. Nate was clearly energized by this insight, getting genuinely excited when walking through the implications. Every timeout, rate limit, authentication flow, and pagination scheme was designed for human speed, but AI agents now operate 10 to 50 times faster than humans on reasoning tasks. The problem is that when agents are 50x faster, but we only get 2-3x productivity back, those other 47x speed improvements are being absorbed by compilers, file systems, APIs, and databases, everything designed for humans, not agents. This is forcing a complete rebuild of web infrastructure around agent-native primitives. Nate outlined a 3-layer transformation already underway, making existing tools faster with languages like Rust and Go, replacing tool abstractions with agent-native primitives, and eventually having agent primitives replace human scaffolding entirely. His message became notably more serious when discussing career implications. He sees 4 to 5 future roles emerging: tool-using generalists, pipeline builders, people-focused business roles, adults in the room with leadership maturity, and possibly creative visionaries. He urged viewers to start preparing now because this transformation is happening over the next 12-24 months. On the Apple front, Max Tech was genuinely excited about leaked details for 4 new Ultra devices coming later this year. His enthusiasm was particularly high for the MacBook Ultra, which he's been personally waiting for since upgrading to his M1 Max. The MacBook Ultra represents a fundamental strategy shift. Instead of replacing current MacBook Pros, Apple is adding this as an entirely new tier. It'll feature a complete ground-up redesign, making it thinner and lighter than current models. Tandem OLED displays for 1600 nit brightness with perfect blacks. The first touchscreen MacBook with macOS redesigned for touch, and dynamic island technology replacing the notch. The iPhone Ultra is their foldable design with a 5.3-inch outer display and 7.7-inch inner display, though Apple is struggling to achieve completely crease-free displays. AirPods Ultra caught Max's attention for featuring tiny infrared cameras, enabling gesture controls, and making them Apple's first AI wearable device. He said he'd definitely buy a pair, no doubt, if the AI features prove practical. The Apple Watch Ultra 4 rounds out the lineup with updated health sensors, redesigned external elements, Touch ID integration, and a new S12 chip. Pricing expectations are premium across the board. MacBook Ultra starting around $3,000, iPhone Ultra at least $2,000, AirPods Ultra potentially $349. The AI coding landscape is evolving rapidly, as covered by the AI Daily Brief. The presenter was notably enthusiastic about how vibe coding is becoming obsolete as platforms converge into multi-agent orchestration systems. Anthropic released major updates to Claude Code's desktop app, completely redesigned for parallel work and multiple simultaneous sessions. The new interface includes a sidebar for managing multiple sessions, integrated terminal and file editor, and drag-and-drop workspace customization. However, early users are hitting significant problems with usage limits and throttling, with some sarcastically noting you can run multiple Claude sessions side by side for around 5 minutes before we lock you out and demand another $200. The presenter highlighted Greg Eisenberg's insight that the model is the commodity, the trigger is the product. Meaning, the real business opportunity is mapping valuable real-world triggers to specific industry workflows. Lovable added native payment integration, Google updated AI Studio with design previews, and Microsoft is reportedly exploring Claudeifying Copilot. The trend is clear. Coding is becoming a core primitive of knowledge work, with all major platforms racing to make agentic coding apps useful 24/7. Dave's Garage took us on a nostalgic technical deep dive into the 1983 movie Wargames, examining what was real versus Hollywood magic. Dave was genuinely enthusiastic and appreciative throughout, clearly enjoying both the detective work and the movie's craftsmanship. The film used real hardware, an authentic IMSAI 8080 with period-appropriate peripherals, but faked almost everything about how it worked. The constantly flashing front panel lights were modified for dramatic effect. The on-screen display actually came from a hidden Compupro 816 system rather than Matthew Broderick's keystrokes, and the iconic acoustic coupler was mainly visual effect. Dave's central thesis is that Wargames cheats constantly on technical details, but cheats in exactly the right places to feel authentic. The movie understood that computers weren't magical but mechanical, finicky, and procedural. They clicked, clacked, loaded, dialed, blinked, and waited. Joshua's AI voice was created by having actor John Wood record lines backwards to create unnaturally flat mechanical delivery. Dave concluded that the movie's lies are built from truthful materials, making it authentic in texture and taste and smell, which is why it still resonates with computer people today. Amanda Montell brought fascinating insights about cult language tactics in her TED Talk, opening with a playful but provocative comparison of Taylor Swift concerts to cult gatherings. She was witty and engaging, clearly enjoying the audience reaction while making serious points about how manipulative language permeates everyday life. Montell outlined 3 specific cultish language tactics, thought-terminating clichés like trust the process that shut down questioning, us versus them labels that make outsiders seem evil while elevating the in-group, and loaded language with emotionally charged buzzwords that eventually cause people to surrender independent thinking. Her personal connection came through her father's experience with Signüll, a 1970s California cult that used traumatic truth-telling rituals. She explained how these tactics exploit cognitive biases like confirmation bias and the halo effect, which she terms magical overthinking. the clash between useful survival shortcuts and the information age. Her advice was practical. When feeling emotionally activated in groups while using buzzwords you can't define, step back and consult other sources. Pay attention to exit costs. Healthy groups make leaving awkward but never apocalyptic. Most importantly, aim to be cult literate, rather than completely avoiding all group influence, since we need community more than ever in this cultiest era of all time. BGO had a contrarian take on OpenAI's $852 billion valuation, arguing that most software engineers are drawing exactly the wrong conclusions. He was confident and excited about reframing the narrative, clearly believing he'd cracked something others were missing. Despite the massive valuation, OpenAI is losing $14 billion annually while burning $1.4 billion monthly on infrastructure, with 95% of their 900 million users paying nothing. They're also hemorrhaging talent at 8 times the industry average. But rather than seeing this as evidence of AI hype being overblown, BGO positioned it as the biggest opportunity for software engineers. Using a pharmaceutical analogy, he argued that companies like OpenAI are like drug makers spending billions on R&D while absorbing massive losses. But there's consistent money to be made being the pharmacists, the ones who deliver AI solutions to businesses rather than building the foundational models. His example was someone named Demir, who built an AI voice agent for a fencing company, losing 40% of inbound calls, landing a $50,000 pilot contract plus revenue share. The AI consulting market is currently worth $14 billion and projected to reach $816 billion by 2035, representing 26% annual compound growth. His core message: winning software engineers won't be those who built the models, but those who knew what to do with them. Signüll from A16, Z brought a philosophical perspective on AI adoption, arguing we're still in the Stone Ages despite having powerful models. He was intellectually curious throughout, frequently making cultural connections and getting genuinely excited about technological acceleration. Using a SimCity metaphor, he described feeling like someone hit the 100x speed button on civilization, with events from last month feeling like they happened years ago. His key insight was that most people use AI for only basic tasks despite advanced model capabilities, with even OpenAI acknowledging that making model power more accessible is their #1 challenge. On AI's negative sentiment in the US, worse than ICE according to recent studies, Signüll proposed that the #1 way you change the NPS of AI is you make important things cheap quickly. He detailed specific scenarios where AI could reduce education and healthcare costs by addressing administrative overhead, noting the irony that while billionaires use the same AI models as everyone else, healthcare remains stratified. His most interesting proposal was giving ordinary people equity stakes in AI companies like OpenAI and Claude to create ownership mentality and reduce perceptions of wealth concentration among tech elites. He sees 4 future roles emerging: tool-using generalists, pipeline builders, people-focused business professionals, and mature leaders who know when to apply the brakes. Dan Montell had the most dramatic take on AI advancement, claiming 99% of people are stuck at basic AI usage while missing transformative capabilities happening right now. He was genuinely excited and evangelistic, but also frustrated that people don't understand what's possible. He broke down AI usage into 3 levels. Level 1, assistance where most people are, using tools like ChatGPT and Claude but still doing the work themselves. Level 2, agent operators, where you stop working entirely and AI completes full tasks. Only 0.3% of ChatGPT users have reached this level. And Level 3, organizations, where only 0.05% operate, involving whole teams of AI agents working 24/7. Montell demonstrated his custom platform Apex with specialized agents like Reese, an AI real estate agent that found 7 deals and recommended 2 for bidding in just 2 hours. He has Procure for buying items, Speak for phone interface control, and a unified inbox system where specialized agents handle all messaging platforms automatically. His vision is execution at the speed of talk, having a genius chief of staff who can also code and research. He positioned this as bigger than the internet or smartphones, urging people not to miss the opportunity like they might have with Bitcoin in 2009. His message was urgent. This isn't hypothetical or years away, it's happening now. Ian Darwin provided a more measured perspective in his GOTO conference interview about the Java Cookbook's 5th edition. He and co-host Jeanne Boyarsky maintained a collegial tone throughout, with Darwin sharing decades of Java experience from writing the world's first commercial training course outside Sun Microsystems to being a founding Java champion. His Java origin story was delightfully practical. He needed a license manager that ran across multiple platforms, including 2 Windows versions, 1 Mac, and 8 different Unix variants, and Java's promise of just create a new socket solved his cross-platform nightmare. Darwin's teaching stories were entertaining, from waking up jet-lagged in Hong Kong during a Tiananmen Square anniversary protest to losing presentation slides and having students reveal they'd all been laid off during introductions. His favorite discontinued Java feature was string templates for variable interpolation, while records made his list of features that successfully made it into the language. On AI's impact, Darwin used it for vibe coding, generating code he then modifies and improves, but cautioned against excessive back-and-forth when writing directly would be faster. His biggest concern wasn't AI taking over, but companies not hiring new developers, leaving organizations entirely dependent on AI when experienced developers retire in 30 years. Nick Seriv brought a pragmatic assessment of Claude Opus 4.7, positioning it as a modest incremental improvement that doesn't fundamentally change what's possible. He was experienced and measured throughout, with occasional moments of mild exasperation about having to review benchmarks. Opus 4.7 sits roughly halfway between the previous 4.6 version and Anthropic's more powerful but restricted Mythos preview model that supposedly hacked the entire internet, but is considered too dangerous for public release. The improvements are real software engineering. Bench Pro jumped from 53.4% to 64.3%. Visual reasoning leaped from 69.1% to 82.1%. But Nick argued this represents horizontal expansion rather than enabling entirely new applications. His central thesis was that the core capabilities people use AI for have existed for roughly 3 years, but earlier versions required extensive scaffolding, while current models achieve similar results with casual prompting about 80% of the time. He criticized the current obsession with benchmark chasing, where people switch models for 3–4% improvements while overhauling their entire infrastructure. His recommendation was to avoid chasing shiny objects and build better scaffolding around existing, working models rather than constantly switching platforms. The real 0–1 moment, he argued, was GPT-3 in 2020 when natural language could first be converted into executable commands. Finally, Diego Carpentero provided crucial insights on AI security, showing how attacks have evolved from basic prompt injection to sophisticated multi-vector threats. He was methodical and genuinely concerned about AI safety, emphasizing we're not building defensive layers for security audits, but to protect machines, humans, and society. Diego outlined 6 major attack vectors: direct prompt injection, indirect injection through external content, exploiting model mathematics with gibberish suffix tokens, poisoning RAG systems with just 5 malicious chunks in 8 million documents, model context protocol exploits through hidden function descriptions, and agentic attacks targeting autonomous systems. The consequences span 3 dimensions: what is told, what is done, and what is believed. His solution demonstrates the unreasonable effectiveness of fine-tuned ModernBERT models, achieving 85% accuracy in 35 milliseconds per classification for just $1 in compute costs. He detailed ModernBERTs' architectural improvements, including alternating attention that reduces memory requirements by 70%, unpadding that eliminates wasted computation on padding tokens, and rotary positional encoding that avoids polluting token semantics. Using the InjectGuard dataset with 75,000 labeled examples, his fine-tuned model successfully identified various attack types from Stanford's Sydney, prompt to supply chain attacks affecting 4,005,000 developers. It's a practical demonstration that effective AI safety doesn't require massive resources, just smart engineering. That wraps up a remarkably dense 13 hours in tech. From Theo's heated takedown of Claude code to Diego's elegant AI safety solution, it's clear we're in a period of rapid evolution and growing sophistication across the entire AI landscape.